announcement, I will postpone the due date of homework to next Monday.
Yes.
The reason is that we probably can't finish the content we need to do for just for the last question, chapter 5. So I decided to postpone the due date to next Monday. So I hope you already finished most of chapter 3's question. You should. If you haven't, well, you have luxury to take additional days. But definitely, well, in fact, the question chapter 5 is not so hard, but I don't want you to complain. Okay, you haven't covered that before Friday.
Right.
But definitely we'll cover on Friday. And then you have a lot of time to do the question chapter 5. I believe it was.
I appreciate it.
Thank
That's
you
a
so
nice
much.
extra.
Welcome.
That's me.
Right? So,
That's a nice extra. You get it.
well, that's how students pass the hardest course in the school of business, right?
Yeah.
This way. That's really. Anyway, so we will still stick our original plan on the first exam, even it's still a little bit not too far away. So next Friday we'll have exam. So Monday you give me the homework. I will grade the homework. I will make sure that to give back to the homework to you on Friday's exam because you probably leave the, maybe you leave that, maybe not, but I will give the homework back before Friday's exam. So the first exam will cover chapter 1, 3, and 5. Christine.
Will we be able to go over the homework to see what we had wrong before the exam? Or
Yeah, that's right. First, I will post the homework answers in the Blackboard. Okay. I hope I give the homework back on Wednesday. If I can't, at least you can review the correct answer in Blackboard, and then to prepare exam. And another thing, I will help you guys for the exam. I will provide the sample exam and post in Blackboard. So the sample exam will have the exact same format with the actual exam. Only different, you know, that's question are totally different, right? But the exam is in class, so we have 25 multiple choice questions. Okay. In fact, I want to test your calculation question, but in the Monday, Wednesday, Friday session, given the time constraints, I can only give you the multiple choice question. That's definitely just some calculation, like forecasting, doing the multiple choice question. But not as complex as your homework question, right? Your homework is big question. So 25 multiple choice questions. We will spend almost 1 hour. I hope you guys come early on next Friday, so we can begin as early as possible and finish as late as possible. The next class student waits until at least 1 hour. So it's like 50 minutes plus 10 minutes break time. So that's my plan. Any questions? No? I believe if you really carefully do the homework, you should have no problem with the exam. But if some of you are totally lost in this course and didn't perform very well for the first homework and the exam, maybe that's the time you think maybe you should rethink whether you still want to be in this session, this semester. Right? Because exam 1 counts for, I believe, 15 points of your total score. Homework 1 counts for another, I believe, what's the point? 7%. So totally it counts more than 20% of your whole score. So if you try your best, or if you don't try your best, didn't perform very well in the homework and exam, well, still you can decide to drop the class. Okay, still withdraw from the class. I don't hope it's happening in this session, but if you want to do that, you should consider do that after the exam, definitely. Right? Any other questions or comments? Oh, by the way, I sent an email to the whole class to give the hint about problem 8 of chapter 3 about trend adjust explanation smoothing method question. I hope you already got the idea how to begin with this question. Right? If you still have questions, let me know. Great?
Do we get to use notes for the exam?
Open book, open notes.
Oh, awesome.
So if we have it in the computer, just print it off or.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was about to
you
say, have
just-
the book.
That's the reason I suggest print out your notes before the class because you can make some comments. Other than you still need to print out your notes before the exam, right? So that's I always suggest print out your notes, take to the class, and then you can make notes when we do the examples. That's helpful. Open book, open. I think nowadays my understanding, except for high school tests or K-12 tests, very few courses we should take the closed book or closed notes test. The reason nowadays when you go to work, you have internet. You can search for almost everything, right? So well, we don't allow internet because still a test. But open book, open notes should be fine. When I was in Purdue 10 years ago, I only allowed students to take one cheating sheet, let them write down what they learn. Well, that's the good thing for this. It's open, but you have to review first. Some students, you take a very thick book, never review that, and then they spend 20 minutes to find the concepts in the textbook. So that's the difference. But yeah, I just let you guys choose. If you don't review, even open book, open notes, you probably will still get very low score in the exam. I'm pretty confident about that because I designed the exam. So, any other questions? Good. Okay. All right. So let's continue our study on chapter 5, the capacity planning. Well, forecasting. Wow. That's the reason it's so important. Long-term forecasting relates to overall level of capacity requirement. If you want to estimate, okay, how many machine we need, that's roughly how many permanent employee we should have, then we should use the long-term forecast, the time horizon we have discussed, and then convert those leads into capacity requirements. We have given a simple example. If you say every day the Walmart check out 10,000 units, and each cashier they can handle to check out 2,000 units per day. Then how many cashier we need in Walmart? 5. So it's conversion from the forecast, right, to the people or the capacity we need. Right? Another question, you can say, okay, a self-checkout machine can handle 4,000 per day. And if we use pure self-checkout machine, then we only need 2.5 and run up to 3 because 10,000 divided by 4,000, right? So once you have the working efficiency or some other measurements of the capacity of machine outputs or employee outputs, then you can convert your demand forecast to the capacity. So that's the idea. How can we calculate the capacity based on demand forecast? Well, still, this is not easy of this number. Remember, you have to estimate the working efficiency, the outputs of your employee. Machine should be fine. Well, that your supplier or your vendor will provide machine, tell you, okay, how many units this machine can produce. But still depends. Maybe they tell you it's a large number, but in fact you can't, like say, produce 10,000 sodas per day. You need to test. But it's pretty stable. But when we talk about the employer, it's really depends. Sometimes you overestimate, sometimes you underestimate, which will create a problem if you convert it to the capacity, right? And also, different shifts have totally different working skill. I did a project for Amazon before. When I was in PhD program, I have internship in Amazon for 3 months in their top 3 distribution center in Kentucky. My project at that time is the labor forecast, which is in fact the capacity forecast. So they want me to make the forecast of how many pickers and a sorter. So picker and sorter, picker, which means, okay, you order the book from Amazon, right? Picker work in the distribution center, they climb and then pick up the book in the shelf or DVD and put in the totes and send to send to. So they have specific workers picking stuff every day. They have lots of pickers because you know there's a lot of orders from Amazon every day, right? So they need to make the forecast for picker. So another student, a senior student, he make the forecast for sortation. So when the order come there, you have to sort the orders, okay, put in the package and then deliver to the customer. So we have 2 different projects, but all of our projects are just capacity planning about the employer, different type of employee, right? So first talk about my project, picker, right? And then we have the forecast from Amazon, demand forecast from their S&OP department. Then definitely we change a little bit because we think we maybe can further improve the forecast. Okay, that's what we have discussed the last chapter, last 3 weeks, how to make the forecast. After make the forecast, demand forecast, then we need to find out, okay, now it's not cashier, it's the pickers working efficiency. They want to know how many pickers they need. You know that, right? You need to know pickers working efficiency, how many units they can pick up, say, per hour. Amazon is very good at that. They track every picker's working history. You know that's okay. So, Yara, you work in Amazon. You sell past 1 hour, how many items you pick? 100, 120, 80? Regularly. The next hour, the same thing. So, if you extract one employee's information, you can get this employee's historical working efficiency every hour working Amazon. Then you get all the information you need. Simple way, you take the average, you can get the information. You say 100 units per hour, then you can calculate how many pickers you need. But it's not so easy. Think about Amazon. What's the problem for Amazon? Well, what do you think you should consider when you forecast the number of pickers you need in this distribution center? Is that so straightforward? Calculate the average, is that good? Good enough? Average, it can't tell you everything. The problem is that first, Amazon or any online retail store, even JCPenney, same. They have very strong seasonality. Agree with me? Very strong. What's their busy season?
Thanksgiving to
Thanksgiving until Christmas, right? So in the best like less than 1 month, their sales volume almost counts for half or even more than half of their annual sales volume. And what's happened when you approach Thanksgiving? You definitely don't have enough pickers here because permanent employee are limited. Then what you will do?
Seasonal employees.
Yeah, temporary employee. And what will we expect about their working efficiency, their output? Temporary workers. Higher or lower?
Lower.
Lower. Usually it's lower, right? Even for the permanent employee, will their working efficiency change during Thanksgiving or Christmas? Will they increase or decrease? That's pure guess. When you work in the Thanksgiving, busy season, you work for Amazon for 2 years in this distribution center. Do you think you can pick more items per hour or less items per hour?
More.
Well, why?
experience.
Experience. But you already have experience. Before Thanksgiving, Halloween you also have experience. Why you think in the Thanksgiving, Christmas you have higher working efficiency?
You have higher expectations. from your
Expectation, motivation. Okay, good. Anybody think it's lower? Nobody think it's will be lower?
Or are you factoring in the temporary workers that are coming in?
I talk about just the permanent workers, so it's apple to apple. The efficient, like say you work around in the August or in September versus the working efficiency or output rates in November.
I think it could be lower based off of energy level, due to the higher demand. That by the end they're not going to be as efficient.
That's right. First, it's energy. You can work for 3 weeks so hard until the week before Christmas, while still very busy, but you are exhausting. Another reason probably is that I can tell you fast is lower from the actual number I have observed is lower. The reason is that you think about that's a mess up in Thanksgiving. Maybe regular season the inventory is so good, right? Thinking about the inventory management is so good, you can easily pick up the book. But during Thanksgiving, everybody rush to pick up that. Then you can mess up with your inventory, or traffic can be a problem. It's even in that huge distribution center, and the working efficiency from the actual number, the salaries go. I'm not sure whether it's still true, but they're lower. Well, that's the reason it can be higher or lower. So it depends. What do we have to do? We have to do the historical analysis also by our business set to make the estimation. Another interesting thing for that particular distribution center is very interesting. They have day shifts and night shifts. You guys are very familiar with that, right? Day shift, because orders come 24/7. Everybody can place the order on 3 a.m. Doesn't matter, right? So they have to run a night shift and a day shifts. I observe it's very interesting. Initially, I find their night shifts output is higher than day shifts. Average speaking, employees' output. Well, it is contradictory to my comments. I think if I work in 3 a.m., I must be so sleepy. I can't pick up 200 books per hour. But their night shifts working efficiency is much higher than their day shifts. Any thoughts?
in the number of people that are actually picking and getting in each other's way? Probably be less people in the night, therefore they can work.
That can be, definitely can be. I can tell you in fact the reason. Then I tell you the reason, you say, yeah, that's can definitely. You think about Amazon's picker, do you think it's a high level position or not so high level position? No, right? They get a little bit higher than the minimum wage because that is the work. I mean, everyone can do that, right? So they have the PDA on hand. They tell you, okay, you pick up this DVD in Zone A, Level 3, which shelf you just go to pick up that, put in the toast. That's all. Well, it's a little bit harder than cashier work. You cashier just stand up, but it's not so hard to do that, right? But still, the wage is pretty low. So what can be their employers group? And most like the people, it's hard to find high level job, and some people those working for the full time half day. It's like mom with 3 kids. Okay, I can only work on the morning, and I need to take care of my kids on afternoon. Basically, those group of people from energy level, from labor level, it's not so competitive. I would say that I don't want to. This one is kind of insensitive, but they have a university similar like Pembroke here. They have a university in that town called Campbellsville. That's the city, Campbellsville University. Then what's the group of their light shifts? Students, right? You guys, right? When you can earn the money after class, I can earn the money. I will go maybe work 2 days or pretty much. You don't want to work 5 light shifts, right? But most of the light shifts workers are students. Young, energetic, easy work for you. For even 3 a.m., for you guys, 3 a.m. is similar for 3 p.m., right? Maybe more exciting than 3 p.m., right? So, just kidding. Only for party, right? So, their work efficiency is much higher for data. This is pretty well for this particular distribution center, but we need to dig out. Don't just use your common sense. Okay, we calculate every, then we get all the stuff. It really depends on the student, depends on shifts, depends on employee, depends on the seasonality, right? So from my experience, even the labor forecast, I spent 2 months to try to figure out a way how to estimate this number, working efficiency, the output, for different week, because I need to make forecast for the whole year. Christmas, Thanksgiving is different with regular seasons. Light shifts, day shifts is different, right? Sometimes you will see that temporary worker have a higher efficiency than regular worker. We have discussed the reason. Most likely, temporary worker are also students. Right? Even the temporary, this training process is easy. It's pretty easy, so they can grab that very quickly. So that's what I want to remind you guys. Even your homework exam is so straightforward, but in the reality, it's cost me 2 months to figure out this number. Conversion factor. How do you convert the forecast to our capacity requirement? 2 months. My boss is not satisfied with that. I'm not satisfied with that. If I come back to do this again, I will do a much better job. I talk with individual pickers. I ask them personally, what will affect your output? I work as a picker to pick up book to see what will affect my output. I talk with the HR department head to see what's their profile of workers. I collect all data, how many hours they have worked at before. Okay? Even some work quit and come back. I collect their historical, when they quit and come back. And add together what's the total working history in this center. It's not so easy. If you really want to do a good job, you have to go beyond just the theory parts. I know this calculate average probably is easy if you have historical data. That we have to go beyond that. Which I really enjoy. As a PhD student, I enjoy talk with them, talk with pickers. Usually they just complain, say, okay, this is minimum wage. But sometimes I can get useful information for my projects. So remember that. Okay, for short-term capacity requirements, then we use the short-term forecasting. We are very familiar with that. And then most likely we'll get a better accuracy. Now, next one, formula model. To calculate the processing requirements, we need to know first is the demand forecast. And the second, what's the standard processing time? You can say the average processing time and the available working time. This formula will determine how many machines we need. So N, R. So how many machines we need is depends on how much of the workload, right? So it's summation from I equal to 1 to K. If we have to make K different products, for each product, the processing time, the standard or average processing time is PI. And demand for each product for the planning horizon, I think was per year, is DI. Then PI DI is the total processing time needed for products I. We add them together, which is the total processing time needed to satisfy demand for all these K products. It's clear for you? Clear? Okay. PIDI is the total processing time we need for one product, giving the units processing time PI and demand DI. We add them together from I to K, we get the total processing time needed for all these K products. And then the denominator is very straightforward. It's the processing time available for one machine. Because one machine can run 10 hours per day and 300 days per year. That is 3,000 working hours per year. So T is pretty straightforward. The ratio will give you the numbers of machine you need. So that's the formula. Any questions or comments? Clear?
Is this formula similar to another formula we had in chapter 3 or chapter 1?
Chapter 3. Chapter 1 we don't have any formula. Chapter 3, let me think. I don't think so. I mean, chapter 3, most we talk about statistics. This is algebra. This is like middle school algebra, right?
Okay.
Chapter 3, we use a lot of advanced tool from business statistics. So this is pretty straightforward, right? Just a ratio, right? Okay. Example. Departments work on 8-hour shifts. It's 8 hours per day. So it operates 250 days per year. And they have figures, okay, for usage of machine that is currently being considered, they have the 3 different products. Okay. And each product's annual demand, standard processing time is given here. So first we have to calculate the total processing time for each product and add them together to get the total processing time to satisfy the demand for all these 3 products. And finally, we need to divide by T. You have to calculate T by yourself to get how many machines are needed to handle the required volume. I'll give you guys 5 minutes should be enough to solve this problem. was correct. That's reason. Don't look. Why? Because what? I'm the professor. I should look at your results. That's fine. That's fine. Take it easy. It's not an exam.
Produce the 8 hours a day.
Any ideas? Take your time. This is the first you have to calculate is the demand. You think about the this demand times processing time. So what's yes, 2,000 divided by 2,000. That gets you. Right?
Time
When you multiply
8-hour shift.
Which number you divide
by each other,
later.
Right, so you
and
say
then you divide them by 8-hour shift times 250 days. So that's the total time.
Correct.
what'd you get?
That's what's the final result. It's not the final result. Think about it. Calculation is correct, but what is the final result? You should answer this question. Oh.
I can get a P. What is it?
You already guessed P is the processing time, right? Standard processing time. That's right.
Per unit,
This is
hour, minutes, it's processing.
Standard processing time.
So you have to figure out everything.
5 hours,
Shift, 250 days.
8 hours, 2 hours.
You have to do 8 times 250.
Divide those by 8 times.
By the demand.
Because it's the
Demand is 400. So you are correct.
each one of those words.
This is PI DI. This is DI, right? Demand for each product. This is total time for each product. Time together is PI DI. Your summation together, that's right, the numerator.
This is for numeric, but
Or you mean the T.
yeah.
T figures, you have to figure T by the total working hour for a machine. So this machine run 8 hours per day, and how many days is run? And you can calculate. No idea? Do you still feel difficulty for this class? Feel difficulty in the class or? Still have to. Well, sometimes I see.
If it's gonna happen today, because I had a party today,
I would expect.
we call it the kid. I don't know, I'm probably gonna have one.
Next time, if you have the miss class, let me know in advance.
Yeah, I don't statistics.
That's what pass is fine. Pass is pass. But in the future, this is not easy. You can see that, right? If you have any question at home, let's go. I hope everybody perform very well. Okay. What's your result?
That's right.
They are how many machines we need?
That's right. That's one. That's
Right? They're all right.
And divide this to the whole.
You should first add together, then divide. Because the one machine can handle all different. So you think about the soda machine, right? You can have the Coke, Sprite, Fanta together. So, yeah,
Calculate this and divide them.
that's right.
Drop out and give up on life.
Okay, I have seen some students already finished this problem. Anybody can tell us what is your final result? How many machines do we need?
3.
3. That's correct. You get that? Some students give me the 2.9. I say this is not the final result because
You gotta round it.
we have to round up, right? This you should give me integer number, unless you can change the machine to 90%, but it won't work, right? How do you guess the 3? Any volunteer to explain to us?
I'll volunteer.
NR equal to summation PI DI divided by T. First, I equal to 1 to which number? How many products we have? 3. Okay. Then, what is the first product P? PI. You can tell me.
1.
PI.
5.
5. Percent time is 5. What about D1?
400.
400. Okay. That is 400 times 5 plus 300 times 8 plus 700 times 2. Okay. Most students have no problem to calculate the numerator. The tricky part is the denominator. T, the processing time available per machine during the horizon. Now, what's the horizon in this question, in this problem?
8 hours.
1 year, right? Horizon is 1 year. We are talking about annual. Okay. Then, how do you calculate T?
8 hours. I don't multiply.
Multiply times whatever. Yeah.
250.
That's great. So since we run this machine 8 hours per day and it operates 250 days, so the total running hour for this machine is 8 times 250. So you get 2 points less. In fact, well, it's almost correct, but you will miss 1 or 2 points if you finish this as your exam or homework question. You round up to 3 machines to satisfy the demand. Okay. Any questions? No? Great. Okay. You can see how easy of chapter 5. Bernard.
No, I'm stretching.
Okay. When I ask you a question, you maybe don't want to do that to make me confused.
I'm
right?
sorry.
Okay. You can wait for 20 seconds, then you can scratch 10 times.
I got you.
Okay, no problem. So, next one, we'll talk about the service capacity planning. Right? The service capacity planning is challenging. You will see that in the rest of this class, every time after we finish manufacturing, we talk about service, like, okay, we'll say, okay, it's more challenging. It's true, because in the service, we have to deal with people, most likely. Yeah, sometimes we serve the pets, but still, like we serve the pets, animals, it's still harder than just manufacturing, production, right? So we have to have our capacity close to customers. For some service, you don't want to set in the nobody, right? Like bank branch, you don't want to set in the very rural place. And it's almost impossible to store the service. Manufacturing, we think about for capacity, we can store that. Yeah, we can put it in our warehouse. But for service, it's almost, you can't store that. We have some way to handle that nowadays. For example, customer service. Well, it's only work like 8 to 5, but you still can call this 800 number. They have automatic answer machine. You still provide a service. It's a limited service, but you do provide a service. It's not exactly store the service, but it's better than like 20 years ago. There's no way you can have any service after 5 o'clock. Okay, but still, the quality of the service is really hard to store the service. Fluctuation of demand. We don't like fluctuation of demand. We have discussed in chapter 3. We say we want to use the proactive method to smooth our demand, which can be very useful for our production part. But for the service, we have an even higher fluctuation of demand, which is understandable. Why? Service industry usually have a higher fluctuation of demand than manufacturing industry. Why? Well, maybe you don't agree with this statement. Why service industry usually have a higher fluctuation than manufacturing industry?
I mean,
Jacob?
there are different specials. I mean, there's also when people get paid,
Yeah,
like deals, different
Yeah.
things like that.
that's correct. Because people, we have a pattern, right? So, like, most people get, like, say, gets the payment, gets the salary by the end of a month, and then when you get your paycheck, probably you want to rush to buy some stuff, right? And most people work from like 8 to 5 or maybe 9 to 6, so that's their shift. So some businesses really, you don't have so many customers during the working hours. But everybody rush to restaurants, pick up some stuff, or go to the bar after 6. If you open the bar in the 3 p.m., very few customers. So since we are most of service industry satisfy the demand from human beings, and our human beings, we have some very standard rules for working, for our living pattern. Most of us sleep on 3 a.m., right, or 4 a.m. But real people still want to have some fun, 3 or 4 a.m. So that can be a problem for the demand for the service industry. Well, that is a natural problem. On the other hand, is that for service industry, you can't store that. You think about, okay, if you want to prepare the lunch for today, well, you can do something, but yesterday you go to Food Lion or Walmart to buy some sandwich or pizza and to store that. Then the time to purchase sandwich or pizza is really, you can go anywhere. Most people go different time to it. But if you want to go for lunch today, most people will go from 12 to 1 or maybe 12 to 2, it depends, right? So it's very intensive. But if you want to store the lunch, you purchase the sandwich, purchase the whatever you want to have yesterday. That's the time for Walmart. It's not so intensive. Not everybody go to Walmart on 6:30 to purchase lunch for tomorrow. So that's also increase the fluctuation of the degree of demand for service industry, which definitely creates a problem for us. Well, we have this kind of forecast harder. Even the forecast is already harder, but with capacity, it's really hard for us to satisfy your requirements. Right? So we want to, the same idea, we have this kind of forecast. We want to do the proactive way to offset the capacity limitation, okay? To achieve the close match between supply and demand. And we know it's really hard for the service industry, but still we want to pricing, right? That's the reason many restaurants has like happy hours Tuesday afternoon. They want you to come the Tuesday afternoon. Usually nobody come, right? And some restaurants charge more for some peak hours. That's also true. Promotion is the same, right? Discounts, other technical. You want to shift demand. Basically, you want to make the demand as smooth as possible. That's the tricks we have learned from chapter 3 to now.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So if let's say a restaurant comes out with a new product, would that be kind of like the same as like a happy hour kind of deal? Because they want you to come and try their new product. So.
Yeah, I think that is one strategy of marketing. It's not the same as happy hour, but the same as happy hour, promotion, discounts, new products, all these they want to attract more customers. Okay. Yeah, or like free of taste, or this something like that. So I think all of them want to attract customers, but yeah, they also this is a great tool to shift demand. If you don't want to promote these new products in the peak season, because even without new products, everybody will come to restaurant. You want to promote that usually in the not so busy season, that you can attract some demand. So that can be useful for the proactive strategy. Very good example by Jonathan. Okay, next topic. When you consider our capacity, that's always several choices. Well, the first question you should ask, okay, if we have to increase our percentage, do we want to do it by ourselves, or do we want to outsource to others to do the job for us? Okay. There are several factors you should consider before you make this decision. First is whether you have available capacity to satisfy increased demand. If you have that, well, and most company organization will decide to do it by themselves. Expertise. Many companies, they say, well, we have machines, but we lose one engineering. Then we don't have enough people to operate this machine. That's also a capacity problem, but expertise can play a very important role for you to decide whether you outsource or not. Quality. Usually when you outsource, where the quality becomes better or worse. Usually it's worse. But it really depends. And Simon students hesitate. That's right, because especially nowadays, we maybe 20 years ago, everybody think outsourcing, okay, cheaper and quality is worse. But nowadays it's different. Well, sometimes we outsource to some others, maybe gets better quality because we don't have expertise. They have that, it gets better. For example, iPhone, right? iPhone 6s will come out to market. I think it's today. iPhone, they have component from Samsung, direct from Samsung in iPhone. The reason is that Apple can't do that. Apple can do that. But for those components, Samsung do a better job than Apple. Right? Apple want to provide the best feature for the customer. So they decided to outsource this component to Samsung. It's a head-to-head competitor with better quality. So it doesn't mean even Apple they do a large outsourcing. Outsourcing is not a just a cheap choice. It's a wide choice, provide an opportunity for you. Nature of demand. If you just demand is just one-time demand, maybe you want to do outsourcing. But if the demand increases like the seasonality, maybe you think about actually handle by myself. Because it will happen again and again. Outsourcing can be expensive, right? Cost. Still usually, right? Outsourcing means cheaper, right? That's traditionally many companies decide to do the outsourcing because it's cheaper, but it still depends, right? Sometimes it's more expensive. Risk. We can spend the whole class discuss the risk of outsourcing. But now let's have a conversation here. What are the risks or can be the risk when you do the outsourcing? Christy,
You're taking jobs from people in the US and sending them overseas.
you're talking about specific on international outsourcing. Okay, that's great. But
Sorry.
outsourcing, first, yeah, that's many people. When we heard about outsourcing, they say go to some other country. But in fact, outsourcing can happen just domestic. You can outsource your job to a labor company. It's still outsourcing. Even in Pembroke, you can outsource to that, right? You can outsource to South Carolina, California. Well, the same idea. Even it's still domestic, you lose job for your community, your company. As like North Carolina, Pembroke, at least Robinson County is not happy about that. You outsource your job to other place. So great. That's a risk.
Yeah. Extra transportation cost.
That's great. Yeah. When we talk about business, human management definitely important, but lose the job ideally shouldn't be our prior consideration if we are the business owner, right? But given the pressure, given the social responsibility, definitely we should think about it. But if focus on money, okay, this lost top priority, but transportation costs definitely for most outsourcing will increase dramatically. That you should definitely take into consideration. Other factors? No risk? Christine?
Aren't you giving somebody else the opportunity to become your competition? Like if they decided to take that information that you
Great.
sent them?
Not just information, think about you outsourcing. First, information is very important, great. But I'm not talking about just leaking your intellectual property, but just giving them a tool. They know that if they just do a supplier for a long time, now you're outsourcing them, they know how to do the finished good. From supplier to finished good, they can enter your markets in the long term. And they can definitely compete with you, maybe more powerful than you, because they can control the supply parts, cheaper raw material than you. So you can create a new competition, and it can be a very hard competitor for you in the future. What else? No risk? There are 3 risks we have discussed. What about intellectual property? Definitely, it can be sensitive, but it happens. Right? Maybe it's not leaking, it's not stealing, but when you deal with outsourcing, you have to share something. Right? If, for example, if you want to produce a car, you tell them how to produce your car. Right? Maybe you hire for the engine part, but they still know the assembling job. So definitely, even we are not talking about somebody stealing intellectual property, you probably will lose your core competitiveness. Okay, by sharing your intellectual property with others, that can create problem in the long term. Something else? No. What about anything related to the currency? That's a risk.
Exchange rate.
Uh-huh.
You say exchange rates?
Yes. Can be a risk.
Pricing can change.
Yes. Because exchange rate currency changing every day, especially after recession, US dollar up and down, not as stable as before. So when you did also say to Canada, okay, well, some years ago, Canada dollar almost as strong as United dollar. Now it's like 1.2.5, something like that. So the change can be means good or bad path for you. It depends on your strategy. So when you do also, especially for international partners, you can face a problem with the currency change every day. Okay, that can be harmful, but also can create an opportunity on the other hand. But it can be a risk. Some other risks we have discussed, those discussed in fact, political stability, right? Especially for international outsourcing, well, many companies decide to invest on the Middle East 10 or 20 years ago. Initially, it's pretty good, but in the past 5 years, it's become a disaster for many companies. Right now have the refugee problem. That's kind of wrong. We have discussed on Monday about this because Europeans have faced big pressure of that. If you're a company, you know you have more pressure that. So when you invest something or outsourcing with partner in some other country, that's kind of have potential. Even domestically, right? Different states have different rules. Like California has a more strict rule on environment protection. So if you do some outsourcing for the company of California 5 years ago, maybe now you can't do that, right? Because they have very tight regulations to protect the environment. Similar, Europe also have tight rules on the environment protection. Even you do that for like Asian countries like China or Malaysia, the labor cost is another risk. The labor cost increased dramatically in the past 10 years for many developing countries. So when you do decide also in 10 years ago, it's a very bright or smart decision. But nowadays, okay, you may lose money by continuing to produce stuff in China, in Malaysia. You have to continue to outsource and move from China to Indonesia, maybe to some country in Africa again and again. It's very expensive. So when you decide to do outsourcing, there are all the factors or risks you should consider before you make this decision. All right? Okay, that's the end of today's class. We'll see you guys on Friday. You don't need to tell me the homework now.